Well, welcome back in Durban. And in his capacity as a WEF steward, Minister in the Presidency, Minister Jeff Radebe, is also attending the World Economic Forum. And on his plate during this conference is many issues, including the issue of gender equality, the employment and employability, also linked to that, the skills issue is also on his plate, as well as the issue of corruption. Minister Jeff Radebe is joining me right now in Durban, and let's find out from him his thoughts about where gender equality is heading, as well as the whole issue of unemployment in Africa and in South Africa, and how corruption is eating into the gains that Africa has made. Minister, thank you so much for making time to speak to us. The issue of gender equality, first of all, is Africa moving closer to closing the divide of gender equality, making sure that women get more opportunities as men right now in Africa?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to this program. On the issue of gender equality, I think what needs to be emphasized is that the responsibility of fighting this struggle against women's inequalities is a responsibility of all of us, including men. So that is why the point that we were making yesterday, that it should not just be left to women. We as men, we should be in the forefront. That is why, for an example, in the book by Karl Marx on Das Kapital, he says the oldest form of exploitation was exploitation of women by men. So that is also an added thing that we need to do as men so that we support the struggle. There are strides that are being made. If you look at South Africa, for an example, as a governing party, the ANC, we have this gender parity in leadership positions of the organization, but also our representative in parliament, we also have that parity. Even in government, the president has appointed many women in strategic key positions, such as in foreign affairs, in defense, science and technology, energy, just to mention but a few. But in the field of work, that's where the major problems are. So that's why it is in this, with the advent of this fourth industrial revolution, we need to ensure that we skill women, we educate them so that they can be able to be deployed in those areas that are needed. Some of the key issues that has been raised in our commission yesterday is the whole issue of focusing on STEM, that is the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, because those are the growth areas of the future. So rather than shy away from the fourth industrial revolution, let's embrace it and take advantage of it. Lastly, the issue of youth in Africa. We are a youthful continent, so that also gives a responsibility for all of us to ensure that these young people must be given employment opportunities. So the issues around entrepreneurship, the issues of collaboration between government, business, and other organs of civil society in getting the skills that are required by the economy of Africa as a whole.
Let's talk about the very skills that you mentioned. There's the issue of employment and employability, where you find that a lot of private sector says that we have people that need jobs, however, they are unemployable. They do not possess the skills that we need. How do we skills, particularly South African youths, because we are sitting at an unemployment rate of over 26%, and how do we skill them to make sure that we burst the unemployment bubble?
Well, I think the key is collaboration between government and the private sector, so that we should be educating and skilling our young people in the professions that are required by the economy. I think there are examples around the world where that collaboration exists, we get the good results. In England, for an example, University of Warwick, the university sat down with the private sector where when they teach at the university, they teach the skills that are required by the economy there in Warwick. So we can learn from that experience of ensuring that the collaboration exists, so that even our technical colleges, we need to give our students the subjects that the economy needs.
Minister, those TVE colleges, they need a lot of work. They need a lot of work in order to skill the very young people that we need employed. Is there a plan from government to make sure that we change the face of those colleges as we know it today?
Yes, indeed. As you can see, education is our apex of priorities in South Africa. That is why the Department of Education as well as the Department of Higher Education and Training. They're getting a lot of money from the fiscus in order to ensure that we deal with that matter as a matter of agency. So, but we need also to reorientate these TVET colleges so that the subjects that are being taught are subjects around the STEM that I was talking about: science, technology, engineering, as well as mathematics and the ICT skills, because now we're talking about robotics and all those fancy words which many people think it's fiction, but it's reality. For example, in 2017, about 60% of the children who are at primary schools will be in jobs that do not exist today. So that is why this fourth industrial revolution, we need to take steps now, not tomorrow, in order to respond to the challenge of unemployment.
Minister, just lastly, the issue of corruption, it's still one that stares us in the face and that is very, very heavy on the shoulders of many governments and many countries. Do you think that we are moving at a faster pace to make sure that corruption does not eat into the gains that the continent and the country has made? It's a really, really big problem.
Well, we can do better, but I was very happy here in this World Economic Forum that the issues of corruption is at the heart of many business leaders, government, labor, and organs of civil society. We know as South Africa, we are signatories to many United Nations conventions against corruption and also the OECD convention against bribery. But we need also to develop what we called yesterday a pan-African regional network, so that we can link up with other organizations around the world so that we can be able to effectively deal with this corruption, because if unattended, it has a potential of corroding the trust of the people in government and business, and the ethics are required to ensure that the monies that the taxpayers of the whole of the continent are directed to those areas that will grow the economy.
Minister Jeff Radebe, thank you very much for making time to speak to us. I really do appreciate it. That was Minister Jeff Radebe. He is the minister in the presidency and also at WEF in his capacity as a WEF steward, and talking to us about gender equality, unemployment, and the impact of corruption on the gains that countries have made and the continent have made. For now, we'll link to sports with Valen, and then you'll be coming back to the World Economic Forum in Durban later on.